a significant breakthrough after years of policy gridlock.
After a wasted decade under the coalition, today is a very good day indeed.
The Greens, through the negotiations, have secured a big hit on coal and gas.
The Greens now on board with Labor's revamped safeguard mechanism, which requires the nation's top 215 polluters to reduce their emissions by about 5% a year until 2030, with no limits on carbon offsets. The government pushed back against Greens' demands for no new coal and gas projects.
The ones that we said we wouldn't agree with, and we haven't.
Negotiating with Labor is like negotiating with the political wing of the coal and gas corporations.
Instead, a compromise. A ceiling on overall emissions which can't exceed current pollution levels and decreases over time. New gas fields will have to be net zero from day one. And when a new project is proposed, its impact on overall emissions will be measured.
We know that these reforms are not going to do enough on their own, but they are a strong start.
The new bill is meant to provide certainty to the gradual cut in carbon, but if polluters can't achieve their cuts, the minister's leaving his options open.
If for whatever reason that cap is being approached, the obligation on me is then to publicly consult to amend the rules.
One former Greens leader, central to climate negotiations in the past, sounding the alarm.
That's treachery. That is Labor treachery. To hear the minister saying, oh yeah, but you know, I've left myself a back door, is pretty disgusting.
Both sides are claiming a political win, but a lasting ceasefire in the so-called climate wars remains unlikely. The Greens will fight any new fossil fuel project, while the coalition tallies any job lost or price rise, polluters pass on. Even so, the government's got the numbers to pass the most ambitious carbon-cutting laws the nation's seen since Julia Gillard's carbon tax a decade ago. Stephanie Dalzell, ABC News, Canberra.
The oil and gas industry has criticised today's deal, saying it'll make it harder and more costly to meet emission reduction targets. But environmental groups say it's an important step forward. As National Environment reporter Michael Slezak explains, the key is in how this policy will be implemented.
The agreement reached today is a long way from what the science says is needed to stop warming at 1.5 degrees Celsius. For that, there can be no new fossil fuel projects started. But beyond the specific emissions cuts the changes will make, what's really significant is a new principle that was lacking from federal climate policy so far, that some fossil fuel projects may simply emit too much greenhouse gas and for that reason can't be built. Until now, it was unclear how emissions from new fossil fuel projects would be reined in. The government had ruled out banning new coal and gas, and it had resisted calls to insert a climate trigger into environment laws, meaning ministers wouldn't have to rigorously weigh emissions when issuing permits for new coal and gas. Now the question will be how many projects will be stopped by the safeguard mechanism, and therefore how close the policy comes to doing what the world's scientists have said is essential.